I'm in the drops, probably standing, like going that hard. But I look up and I see a very still Andrew, where there was once a very fast moving Andrew, and he's very close to me, like right at the edge of the intersection. And I drill into him, I think before I even hit my brakes. Like, I don't even think I touched my brakes. And then the next thing I remember is like us sprawled out in the middle of this massive intersection with like people getting out of their cars being like, oh my God, are you okay? I think I hit Andrew so hard that you might have ripped a cleat off of your shoe and it was stuck in your pedal.
Oh, it was so funny. It was so funny. At that time, I'm guessing you probably weighed like 175 pounds,
yeah,
and had like 5% body fat. And it was like someone with that physique running 30 miles per hour in football, tackling you while you were just standing there facing forward with no awareness of what was about to happen.
You were doing a track stand.
It was so funny. It was so funny. You just railroaded into me, plowed me, hit me so hard that it threw me off my bike into the intersection. And you were 5 or 10 feet in front of me in the middle of the intersection. And you're right. People were like, is this guy dead? Hey, everybody. Welcome back to Choose the Hard Way. This is Andrew Vontz, and this is actually the 100th episode. And we're going to do something a little bit different today. I started this podcast 6 years ago. And the point of the podcast was to explore the idea that hard things build stronger humans who have more fun. And I've had some incredible guests on this show during the past 6 years. I hope you've enjoyed hearing from them. I know I have, and I know I've learned a lot from their stories. They've motivated me. They've inspired me to try new and different things. And they've also reminded me how important it is to have someone in your life who you love, that's a great friend, that you also have a lot of fun competing with. Someone who you can push yourself to be better when you spend time with them doing the things that you love. I have one of those friends with me today, Blake Kazemeier, aka at Blake of Today. You can find him on Instagram and TikTok. And, you know, this podcast, I love having my guests come on and share their inspiring and motivating stories. The more I listen to podcasts, the deeper I get into this game, the more I've learned that, you know, most of the podcasts you listen to, things go in one ear and out the other, but you remember how they make you feel. And most of the tips and tricks you hear are things that are lost somewhere in the RAM up in your brain. And the stories stick. So Blake and I today are going to talk about some of our experiences back in the day in Los Angeles where we met, some of the workouts that we did during that period of time, which that might sound slightly strange. I don't think it is. There are some pretty memorable things happened. And normally there's not a call to action in this podcast, but today there is. And what I would ask you to do is to find that person in your life who you love spending time with, who you love, who you also like to compete with. And I want you to go find something that's hard and difficult and uncomfortable to do. And I want you to go do it together and push each other. Wow, this is sounding kind of weird.
Yeah. Andrew's intro to me was, hey, we're going to just have a chill podcast where we talk about like the crazy stuff we did in LA, 15 years ago. And now this is sounding like I'm like at the top of like Hero Mountain and I'm going to have some sage advice instead of the notes that I picked about you showing up to our first workout wearing a baked potato man sweatsuit.
Yeah. Well, anyway, hopefully you enjoy this. I've got more great guests coming up, more interview style podcasts on the way. And yeah, so we're just going to try something a little bit different today and see how it goes to celebrate 100 episodes of Choose the Hard Way. And again, thanks everybody for listening and for making this podcast a huge success, because ultimately it's all about you, the people who listen to it. So thanks for reaching out at Hardway Pod on Instagram and Twitter, choosethehardway@gmail.com to let me know what you're into, who you want to hear from. And yeah, thanks for being here and for listening. So Blake, let's talk about it. I think we've covered the cute meat on previous episodes when you've been on. We met each other in, I think it must have been 2008, and we were volunteering at a at a shelter downtown that was serving food to unhoused people, which that was the first time I had ever volunteered at that specific spot. For me at that point in time, I was going through some challenging things in my life. I think I was quite depressed. And I was there with my girlfriend, my partner at the time. You were there with your partner. And, we looked across the service line, and I don't remember how, but somehow the topic of CrossFit came up, I think, which I was not into. You were into it. I think you were doing main site WODs at the time.
Yes,
is that
correct.
right?
Yeah. So the conversation started, we were on the service line. It was me, my ex-girlfriend, and then you. And I was like, who is this handsome fellow that's just like 25% better version of me standing to the left of my girlfriend? And you introduced yourself to her, and you're working your way down the line, and you said, yeah, I'm a professional journalist, I'm a bike racer, I'm into electric music and all this stuff. And I was like, oh yeah, that guy is like just 25% cooler than me, and he's the one talking to my girlfriend. And she was like, hey, like, he's doing all the things that you want to do, you should talk to him. And I was like, oh, cool, man. And you were super nice and stuff, and you invited my girlfriend at the time and I to go on bike rides with you. You were like, yeah, do you guys ride at night? Like, do you like moon parties or whatever your thing was at the time? And I was like, sure, man.
Hey, you into moon parties?
I think I took your email, and I was like, cool. I was also very busy. I was going to school full time and waiting tables full time, and dating this woman, admittedly, like, not full time. I was not a great boyfriend at the time. And when she and I broke up, that's
a different episode, Blake.
There was a window of time in my life where I was like, oh, I have these like a few number of hours that I can fill a week. I should have a friend. And like, I literally was like, oh, I met that guy at the soup kitchen with her. Let me like send him an email. And I was like, hey man, like, you mentioned that you ride bikes. I'm about to buy a bike. Any pointers? And you responded to my email and you were like, hey, let's hang out, which is not an easy thing to do. I mean, I was in my mid 20s. You were in your early 30s. It's not an easy thing to do at that stage in your life. And it's just so weird that we found each other and became friends, because we're into the weirdest, most niche things that two people could be into. They're just not fun things to do normally, I think, for most people.
Yeah, I think at least within my circle of friends, because I had I was connected to a competitive cycling community and also to, I don't know what you would call it, recreational cycling activist community, because there was critical mass and then also Midnight Riders and the Bicycle Kitchen in LA. So there were a lot of people advocating for pedestrian transportation. There were many large scale rides with between hundreds to several thousand people on Friday nights. I don't know if they still go on in LA, but it was a special time in Los Angeles that I've talked about before. But I think the thing that really brought us together and kind of got our friendship moving was we were like, hey, like, let's go do a workout. Can you spot me? One of those types of things. Not really. It wasn't a get on the bench press and bench type of thing, but there was a park in Silver Lake. It had like a pull-up bar. I don't remember if didn't have like a climbing rope, but it had something like that. There's some apparatus.
It had a pole that went all the way up, and it had rings, I think, that hung all the way down. Had metal rings.
Yeah,
metal rings.
Yeah, you know what? It had dip bars as well. So it was like a very rudimentary setup for a workout. And I think that maybe was the first thing we did. Was we said, cool, like, let's do a workout. Blake was into doing main site WODs off of CrossFit. If you're not familiar with that, at that time, CrossFit was posting a workout of the day every day on their website. And I wasn't into that. I had met Randy, who is the former Navy SEAL who started TRX. I have an interview with him in the archives if you want to go check it out. So I was getting into lots of different types of strength training and functional training to supplement my bike racing that I was doing. And so we decided to meet up at the park, and then that's when the fateful day happened.
At that time I was spending like 2.5 hours at the gym by myself pretty much every day. and which is at the Bally's in Hollywood, a lonely place. It's the Bally's in Hollywood is like a dark cave of a workout place, just no windows or like natural light, and not in like a cool like Louis Simmons West Side Barbell way. It was like just a gross gym. But I had signed up for a Bally's membership, which Andrew had a membership to that gym as well, I think.
Yeah, it had more of a like you're going to get staff on the ab machine type of vibe.
Absolutely.
That's how I kind of characterize
and so
the
when I
Bally's.
had a person who wanted to exercise with me, I was like, okay, but like I'm a psychopath. Like I'm not, or whatever. That might not be an appropriate term, but I'm not a normal person when it comes to this stuff. And so we set a date and a time to meet at this park, and Andrew walked up literally wearing a weight cutting suit, like a Michelin man,
plastics. They're called plastics.
Yeah, like he the kind you can find kind of in the discount bin at TJ Maxx, and walked up wearing that, and he was like carrying like probably chains and a TRX suspension trainer, and he was like, "Hey man," I was like, "This guy's probably as crazy as I am. I think this is gonna work out."
Yeah, I think I don't know if it was the first workout, but it might have been. This park was about, I don't know, it was probably a 15-minute walk from where I was living at the time, and there was a substantial amount of vert because it was a very hilly neighborhood. And I'd gotten into sandbag training. Blake and I were both doing a lot of manufacturing of our own equipment to train with. It's just a thing at the time. I didn't really have money to buy a ton of fitness equipment. I'd been reading about sandbag training. So I had a duffel bag full of, I think, 80 pounds of sand that I had put into a backpack that I had gotten for free. I wrote something about it for some magazine. I got to keep it. It was not a Go Ruck, which I got later. This was like a backpacking backpack. I had an 80-pound sandbag in it, and I figured this will be a good workout to walk over to this park with this sandbag, and then we can do some stuff with it. So yeah, and I rolled up the plastics. I think I was just ahead of the time on heat acclimatization, which has a lot of great health benefits, increases your red blood cell count, among other things. But yeah, I was sweating profusely. It was hot. And I had an 80-pound sandbag and a TRX and a couple other things.
This was a time when, 2008 feels like not that long ago to me in my head, but in the world of like fitness, it was completely different. So there were not really physical CrossFit gyms. People were doing CrossFit workouts, like you mentioned, off of the main site, and then taking those workouts and like doing them in their homes or in big box gyms. This was before the affiliate program existed, etc. This was before you could just go out and buy a weighted vest on Amazon. I mean, it's before you could buy anything on Amazon really, other than books. It was before you could get a medicine ball. Really, you would have to probably buy that through like Perform Better or like an actual like retail, like a wholesaler for fitness equipment. And the same thing with sandbags, with the weighted rucks that you're talking about. Like this stuff didn't exist, but we were like reading about it, and we would go home and like go to the dollar store or go to like a sporting goods store and be like, oh, cool. Okay, cool. I got like a $2 basketball. I'm going to turn this basketball into a medicine ball. And so we were both experimenting at home with how to do this. And the tactic that I think we one of us settled on was that you had to carve a hole, you had to puncture a hole in with the thing that you use to plug a tire, like a car tire, and then fill it painstakingly, like fill it either with like a funnel or whatever it is with sand, and then
1 grain of sand.
Like it was so slow, and and then you have to like put that car tire plug it up, and send it out. And so it would take us hours of time to develop these devices, and we would take them to the park, and they would be.
Yeah, the medicine ball thing also never worked, by the way. I think we read that in. Yeah, I got a subscription to the CrossFit Journal around that time. It was a PDF you would get once a month, and it just had articles from interesting people doing interesting things with strength and conditioning. And one of the articles was about how to make your own medicine balls. So yeah, we both got those like mini basketballs, as Blake described, poked holes in them, filled them with sand, then plugged them, and then it never worked. Like just the sand always leaked out. We weren't really thinking about the concept of opportunity cost and how much time and effort it took to make those. But it was also kind of fun.
It was super fun. Yeah. They would explode like violently at the park. And this is a public park. Like there are people with kids there and there are other people there. And they're like, what are these guys like doing? Actually, I will say that we turned very few heads. There was a lot of abnormal behavior at that park. I think we just kind of...
Yeah, there were some other things going on in the park that I think maybe rated a bit higher than what we were doing on the abnormality scale. But yeah, and the workouts, you know, Blake, you were big into the main site. There were a lot of push-up and pull-up ladders. You were like deeply into kipping pull-ups at the time, really committed. And I'm definitely gonna go in the archives and pull out photos from some of these workouts. And I think we actually, I think that there are a couple of things on YouTube that I posted because I made videos of a few of the workouts, and I'm either going to make them private, pull them down, or maybe I'll share them. But they tended to be, like it was like TRX, sandbag stuff, body weight stuff. And these workouts lasted for a while. I think we would often pick, I don't know, we'd say, hey, let's do a 10-to-1, 1-to-10 ladder, and then this thing and that thing. And it was almost always like 2 straight hours of training, typically.
Yeah. And just like totally not aware of how much time it would take. It was like, oh, we could do this thing and this thing and this thing. And it's like, you know, it's 90 to 100 degrees in LA under the sun, just sitting out there at the park doing this stuff. And then I had to go wait tables at night afterwards. But I think another thing that I want to talk about too is just, you know, getting into bike riding. So we were at the time doing, I had just gotten into cycling, and you were my coach, my mentor, and how to get into competitive cycling. So
why did you get a bike? Blake? I don't even know.
Because they were cool. I don't know. I didn't really have a reason. I wanted to start riding bikes. I just thought it was cool. I'd also had my car impounded a couple times at that point, and I thought an alternate form of transportation might have been a good idea. Yeah, my car was impounded for completely preventable and stupid reasons. I had like a fix-it ticket that went to a warrant that I had already fixed and just never filed the paperwork to show that I fixed it. So when I got pulled over again, they're like, hey, you have this ticket. I'm like, yeah, I fixed the thing. They're like, that's not how this works. I'll have your car now.
Yeah, LA is also for people who haven't lived in Los Angeles is also the kind of place where they really like to tow your car. Like there's nothing like a good tow. I think I've told you this story, Blake. I was in a band when I was in LA. I think I was like 24 or 25 years old, and our rehearsal space was on Hollywood Boulevard. It was just west of Vine, I think. And Lincoln Park was like the next rehearsal room over. I remember that. They had slightly more success than we did, probably because they went to Art Center. I went to Cal Arts. But I remember one night going in there, going to practice. I had parked in front of one of the Church of Scientology's many buildings in central Hollywood. I definitely legally parked. And when I came out, my car had been towed. And I was, naive enough at that time that I was positive my car had been stolen. It's like, and I had I was driving, I think, what would I have had? It's like an early 90s Ford Taurus. It's not the type of vehicle, it was the Russ. It's a nice vehicle. It got me around. Not the kind of vehicle I would think would be your first target if you're going to steal a car in central Hollywood. There's typically some nicer vehicles out there on the street. And then I walked over to the Hollywood police station, which I think is 2 blocks from the location I just described. And I went in and reported that my car had been stolen. And they like looked up my VIN number. They're like, yeah, your car got towed. And then, and then I had to pay for it, which sucked because I had no money.
I had the reverse
I had
happen.
a lot of great stories.
I had the reverse happen where I thought my car got towed and it actually got stolen.
Where were you?
Yeah.
Up by the Galleria?
I actually lived, I actually lived a couple blocks away from the Galleria, and I parked on the street, and I was like, it was late. I just gotten back from work, and I was sure I just parked illegally and didn't realize it, and then I went and looked it up, and they're like, no, we have no record of your car, and I was like, oh, my car got stolen. Crap. And
did you ever get it back?
Yeah, I got it back. So I was getting ready to. I was used to be a musician, and I was getting ready to go out on tour. I was going out for a very long tour. I was going out for like 4 months. And so I was also I was moving all of my stuff in storage and moving out of my apartment and downsizing. So it kind of happened at a time where I was like, this is actually kind of convenient to not have to worry about where my car goes. And I'll sort this out when I get home. I did not report the car stolen. So I was just like, I didn't know that that's what you had to do. My car was stolen. I reported to my insurance. I just didn't file a police report anyways. So and the night before I leave for tour, I get a call from an impound lot in like Marina Del Rey. And they're like, hey, your car is here. And I was like, no, my car's stolen. They're like, yeah, exactly. Like your car has been parked at like this, this strip of road in El Segundo for like 2 months and finally got impounded. There was somebody living in it. And so the night before I went on tour, I went out there. They're like, okay, here's the deal. It's $250 to get your car out. It's $500 to leave your car here and we'll dispose of it. And so I went home and I put it up on Craigslist, take car as is, $500. And somebody called me within 30 minutes of me posting it, being like, I'll take the car as is. So I went back to the impound lot and I was like, cool, I'll take it. $250. It barely drove. The person met me, gave me $500. So I made, in my head, I was like, I made $250 because I had already written off and forgotten the car. But, and then I left for tour for 4 months the next morning.
When you got the car back, what was missing? There's always something super strange that's happened to the interior of your car. For anybody who hasn't had their car stolen, I feel sorry for you. You're missing out on a really interesting and terrible life experience. But when you get it back, there's always something weird has happened to your car, and something happened in the car that you don't want to know about. What was going on inside of that vehicle?
I mean, someone was living in there, so there was nothing. There was nothing missing. There was a lot of new stuff in there.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So that's how it happens. But getting back to the park in Silver Lake, I think what I quickly discovered about Blake, and I think Blake discovered the same thing about me, is, there was just like this incremental competition in the sense of us pushing each other and almost daring each other to do something more or more horrible every time we worked out. So we started doing these really high rep pull up and push up, body weight dips, whatever workouts. I still had functioning triceps and tricep tendons at the time. Shout out to my boy Z. If you're listening, you know who you are. And yeah, so that's when I was on a shopping trip to Home Depot to get something. And I saw that you could buy lengths of chain, like whatever length of chain you wanted. And I'd probably seen somewhere something about training with chains for variable resistance. So I ended up buying these giant chains. I still have them. They're down in my workout space today. And I don't know, they probably weighed like 40 or 50 pounds. So then we started doing the pull-ups with chains to have some extra weight, and it kind of moves around. You have to stabilize your body more. It's a hard challenge. Then we were doing a lot of interesting things, but every workout, it was always like a very friendly type of competition, but it was definitely fuck you, can you do one more rep type of deal?
I remember specifically it was the first time we rode over Mount Hollywood in Griffith Park. We'd met a couple times and ridden on the bike path, and I was on a Schwinn Primi from like 1988 that had cages, clips,
I don't even remember this bike. This was before you got the Giant that later
Before
got
I got the
stolen.
Cannondale, which got cracked, and then the Giant, which got stolen.
I don't even remember the
The
Cannondale.
The
Wow.
Cannondale looked just
So,
like the
okay.
Giant, so that makes sense.
All
It was
right.
a little bit too big for me.
Okay.
But anyway, so I was on the Primi, and I was wearing like Dickies shorts and probably like a tank top or something. Like
a Smash Mouth
exactly.
type of look.
And you're like, do you want to try and climb up the back of Mount Hollywood? And like, down tube shifters, the whole nine. And I was like, let's go. And like my first time climbing up there, I'm probably climbing in the drops in my big ring, like standing up and half wheeling you the whole time. And
nice.
And like, this is my first time doing a climb that's like over probably, a few hundred feet. And this is like a 1,200 foot climb. And, I was talking, I said something like, yeah, like I really like cycling, this is fun because I'm like not really a competitive guy. And you went, what? I was like, I'm not a competitive guy. And you thought I was making a joke because of how I was like on the most
competitive you are.
The most difficult bike you could ride, trying to half wheel like a guy who was you're a Cat 2 on the road, right?
I wasn't. I quit at Cat 3,
whatever.
But yeah, I got to a higher cat in other categories.
Cat 3 on the road, and you're in proper kit, like you're a legit cyclist, and I'm like trying, anyways, and you're like, you're not competitive, huh? But yeah, so everything was definitely like a fun. It was a type of competition it's like steel sharpens steel, where you're like, I'm not gonna. This is only making me better. I wouldn't have done this had I been on my own. That one extra rep because the person next to you is doing one extra rep, and you just want to, you want to be as good or better than they are.
Yeah, kind of that. I can only hurt you because I love you in the best way possible in the context of this workout.
Exactly. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. It was that type of thing. And as you got into cycling, you of course took to it because you're a fit person who's generally looking strong. And, that's when I discovered that kind of one of your primary defining characteristics during aerobic activity that's quite uncommon is you like to chew bubble gum and blow bubbles. Yeah. And when I'm introducing people to Blake, that's probably one of the first things that I tell them is that, this is the guy that blows bubbles in the middle of difficult efforts on the bike to try to kind of play with your mind. And this is the guy who says looking strong, bud, to riders that he passes. But yeah, once we kind of got cooking on that, you took to it quickly, and I definitely initiated you into, the art of some of the technique that you need to learn in order to ride in a group. And if you're listening to this, I know a lot of my listeners are cyclists, but if you're not, when you're riding in a group of people, if, for example, you've ever watched the Tour de France, and I'm not in any way analogizing what we were doing to that and at an effort or ability level, but the thing that is similar is like you're in constant contact with the people around you, and not the CRM software. I'm talking about, you're bumping elbows, your shoulders touch. There's just typically that just happens when you're riding in a large group of people, and it's a very uncomfortable and unsettling feeling when it happens. And if you don't know what you're doing, and if you overreact, or you don't know how to absorb the weight of someone leaning on you, then you'll definitely wreck. So that was kind of one of the first things I tried to teach you, Blake, was, hey, here's how you do this. So same park in Silver Lake, we started taking our bikes over there, and I used some of the drills that my coach, David Brenton, who also is, he was my coach at the time in LA, great guy, multi-time national champion, Olympian. He's also, you can find an interview with him in the archives. But yeah, he taught me a lot of great contact drills, which I then taught to you, Blake. And I think that David, he was super attuned to and really great at teaching people how to do that, which is not commonly something most coaches teach. But he was a martial artist, a stuntman, and a professional cyclist. And how ironic, Blake, that years later, you're a very high level martial arts practitioner yourself. But yeah, that was, so like we started doing that, and then we started going out and doing bigger and bigger rides. And then we went out and
sorry to cut you off, but again, like what ahead. This looked like is so I'm on a Cannondale. I'm on this.
Yeah, what did this look like? I wonder, does people. Yeah, because we're riding around in a grass field in the middle of the
Right.
park
So
when cycling was not like a cool thing in LA at that time. In general, I would say it's like a cool hipster thing to do now.
yes.
Right?
So by the time Andrew had convinced me to go on this, we were getting ready to go on this Montrose ride, or maybe go to the Rose Bowl, which is also a very scary competitive ride, or maybe go to Nichols Canyon. So these are the rides that competitive cyclists who have a lot of experience go out and do. And Andrew he's like, you like cycling, you're gonna love it in this environment because you're competitive and it's really exciting. However, if we don't get a few of these things down, it's not going to go well. And the part I liked about cycling is that it's really hard and you go fast and all this stuff. The part I do not like about cycling is anything technical. I'm a terrible bike handler and I don't have a good stomach for risk. And so we were at this park again. There are kids there, there are civilians there, and we're going like, I don't know, like 5 miles an hour, like doing like figure eights and little like going through little chicanes, while Andrew is aggressively elbowing and headbutting me to see if I can get comfortable like being able to do this in a pack of people. And so like he's like definitely over indexing on the aggression. And in order to do that, if you've ridden a bike before, if you're in a pack, you kind of have to counter that same kind of intensity in order so that you don't fall over. So you have to, as hard as somebody's pushing against you, you have to push against them just as hard so that you don't topple over. And Andrew was way, way better. He still is way better at it than I am. So it's just hilarious watching this bike bully, like bullying over his little friend. Who kept like dumping off of a bike. Guys, I was riding this 61 centimeter Cannondale. I usually ride a 56. So it's huge. I just looked like my big brother was just pushing me all over the park on my bike. It was very fun and very funny.
It would be interesting to, the next time we're in the same place at the same time and go on a bike ride together, which I hope is soon. It would be very interesting to repeat that experiment now that you're a high-level jiu-jitsu practitioner. I wonder if your ability to do that is different now, right? Because so. Yeah, I can only imagine how your capoeira would apply to this.
My fight dance. But one thing that Andrew is like really good at is his bike handling. Like he'll talk himself down on this, but like strategically when he races, when he's doing a cyclocross race, he can say like, oh, I'm going to take this turn in this way to wedge out someone over here, right? Like in a fair, like tactical way. And that's something I can't do as a cyclist. Like I'm praying to make it through that turn however I make it through. And Andrew can think tactically about how he's going to enter and exit that turn. And so that's just something that like you've had the patience to work on and you have like the natural ability to do. And I'm awkward in space, I feel like. So I don't know that jiu-jitsu can help me at all.
It's just reps, man. Yeah. It's just, you know how it is. It's just reps. And so eventually the rides start getting longer and longer. And again, if you're listening to this, if you've got a friend that you love doing things like this with, call that friend or send them a text message right now and plan something for this weekend or whenever you all have some free time. And then send me a message. I want to hear about it. I want to hear about how it went, what you challenged each other to do, because that's what happened with Blake and me. We just continued to progressively push each other and to do more and more challenging and sometimes inadvisable and incredibly stupid things athletically. And one of the things that we did, so like kind of the progression with the riding was, we started to go out and do these group rides. And you can find these all over YouTube now. Most of the rides we just described, at the time we were doing them, there were definitely professional athletes doing these rides, like Tony Cruz from Postal Service, Cale Leogrand, who, later left the sport, Rasan Bahati. There were all kinds of people coming out and doing these rides. Yeah. They were very fast.
Rasan would show up on his TT bike and try and ride away from the ride. Like he would like, that's how, like, it was super competitive. Like people were, like you had big hitters who were doing this for a living coming out to do this with us.
Yeah. Yeah. So I was like, great. The logical next step for this person, Blake, who's been riding bikes for like 6 months, is like, it's time to bring him out to one of these rides and see what happens. I don't remember if this was the first time we did it, because we got into this habit of we would go out on Saturday to the Montrose ride. The Montrose ride would leave South Pasadena from the Trader Joe's. Shout out to all my South Pasadena Trader Joe's customers, if you're listening. So I think the first time we did it, we did the long ride, which was 50 miles. Is that correct?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. So we'd ride over there, we would do the ride, and then we would ride home. And that's probably, I think that's around 70 miles, probably, if you ride from the east side of Hollywood and do the long ride. So we got into the habit of doing this. I have no idea. I don't think we've ever talked about it. Do you remember the first time you went out and did that ride?
Yeah, 100%. I got a pinch flat on some railroad tracks very early on. So you know how you would go over the railroad tracks, and then you would go down to the section where there was a short contested sprint kind of early on in the ride.
To the right, where you veer to the right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So as we went over those railroad tracks, I got a pinch flat, and so I stopped, and at the time I had this giant top tube size hand pump, and I was just frantically like fixing my tire. This is the kind of group ride where like nobody's gonna fucking stop for you. Like,
nobody's stopping for you. No one cares.
And you were out ahead of me because I think you were trying to contest the sprint at the time, and so I'm fixing to flat as fast as I can, but I'm like months into being a cyclist. So, and typically, Andrew would sit back and help me do this kind of stuff, but the ride had passed. And so I got on my bike and I didn't really know the route of the ride. So I just thought in my head, oh, I can catch him. And so I got on whatever that road is, and I just rode so far for so long, so hard, and never saw another cyclist again. And eventually got out there and like turned around, came home. And then you sent me a text later on that afternoon, like, are you okay, man? Like, what happened to you? And I was like, I'm good. Can't wait to do it next week. And I was like, all right, I'm going to stay. Like, and I was like so committed at that point to like, I got to stick with this ride. Like, this isn't going to happen again. But it was horrifying. The first 20 miles or so of the ride that I did, it was really scary.
Yeah. Do you remember, was that the feeling you had being in that group? You were freaked out?
Yeah, it's really scary. And then, because here's the situation. I'm not that fit. I've only been riding for so long. Strategically, it makes the most sense for me to be farther up in the group, just so that I am not dealing with whiplash or the boomerang effect, and I'm drafting, I'm protected. That just makes the most sense. However, because I'm terrified, I'm sitting in the back. And so every time there's a surge, I'm late to the surge, and I'm like racing. This is kind of like the experience I think a lot of people have on their first big group rides, and you're just reacting. And so you're significantly more exhausted on the back than you would be in the middle of the pack. Right. Yeah. And so it took a while for me just to get comfortable with all of that. But seeing you, I remember seeing you again. This is the competitive thing, which is so fun because Andrew used to wear these jerseys that he would like spray paint himself. So like he would like spray paint a little like snake on it in like high vis orange or something. And so I could see his jersey, like it would start off and be like, okay, like he's 3 wheels ahead of me. Okay, I can stick with him. Okay, I can still see him like 6 wheels ahead of me. I can get up there. And then he'd be gone. And I'd be like, oh man, I lost him. And so it would be like trying to get up to where he was in the ride. Because again, Andrew's been riding bikes a long time. He's a very smart, tactical rider, but I was not as tactical. And when we'd start off, Andrew would be like, fucking stay on my wheel. And I'd be like, okay, cool, got it. And it would be like a test for me how long I could sit on his wheel or how long I could be within a few wheels of you. Because it was really scary. I didn't want to be up there. And that's how I pushed myself to get better at it. Yeah.
Everything's scary until it isn't, just like everything's hard until it's not hard. And then you got to find something harder to do. Right.
Yeah. Yeah. That ride's always going to be a little scary.
Yeah. I mean, Blake, I sent you a link to a YouTuber's video whose name we won't mention, that threw up a video this week of a group ride that's out that goes up the Pacific Coast Highway, and watching it it almost made me physically ill just watching the proximity of this group to very high speed traffic on the PCH, where there have been numerous car on bike fatalities. And yeah, it just, personally, I don't have the same appetite for taking inordinate levels of risk just to go be part of a group. And also, as you know, Blake, I live in an area where there is a relatively small group of people who ride bikes who are awesome. Shout out to all the mid-coast cyclists here in Maine, but there are not rides like that here. I think Southern California in the United States has to be the epicenter of the large race style group ride, because I think you can do one every day of the week in Los Angeles. And I'm sure that was 15, 20 years ago when I was doing those all the time. And there are a lot more people cycling now. At least that's what social media is telling me.
Yeah, I mean, it's a different scene out here for sure. But it was different then. And I think we should talk about my first century. It's the first time I ever rode 100 miles on a bike in a day. It was not a consecutive, but it was an epic experience of competitiveness and camaraderie between you and I. So
yeah, and also stupidity, which if you're not doing, honestly, if you don't pick something to do that is just kind of dumb every once in a while, then I'm not sure you're alive, because I think that's really where you find your edges and grow, and maybe find some things that you don't want to do again. And yeah, I definitely want to talk about that. Before we do though, Blake, I wanted to talk about one other Montrose ride. And I know people out there, they're on YouTube at this point trying to check out the Montrose ride and see what that's all about. But you and I kept going to the Montrose ride. And then there was one week in particular, I think that we were maybe a couple of minutes late getting there, and we were fast enough to almost catch the group, having started, 5 minutes after the group started. And we kept getting really close to almost catching the tail end of the ride. And keep in mind, this is a group of about 200 cyclists, probably riding like 25 to 30 miles an hour, I would guess, in this stretch of the ride. We're cruising along, and we get really, really close to catching the ride. We've made it all the way up to the back end of the ride. And the way this particular section of road works, there's a stoplight probably every quarter mile, if not sooner. The lights are timed. So if you make the light, you're just going to keep hitting green lights if you're riding fast enough. If you hit a red light, you're fucked. You're never going to catch the ride. So we kind of kept hitting red lights, but we had managed to ride so hard that we had chased onto the very back of the ride, and we were probably within 20 yards. It felt like we were going to make it onto the ride, and we're going full gas. And yeah, we were riding very, very fast. I want to say probably like 27 to 30 miles per hour for a short period of time. We're coming up, and the light goes from yellow. There are people on the back of the group, and it turns red. And this is like a SoCal 4-way stop where it's 3 lanes in each direction, 4 ways. This is not a light that you want to run. You don't want to run this light. You should never run any lights. And I was in front. Blake, you were riding behind me. And one of the things you, of course, have to learn if you're going to be out riding with other people is you want to ride as close to their wheel as possible to stay out of the wind, because you save about 40% of your energy, like 20 to 40% of the energy of the person riding in front of you, depending on how close you are and how many total riders are in front of you. And you also need to maintain situational awareness and be able to look over their shoulder, because you're not on a closed road. You're not at the Tour de France. It might be worse if you're at the Tour de France. There's a lot of weird stuff on the road there. Anyway, I see the lights turning red, and I make the judgment, this isn't the day that I'm going to die doing this particular thing. And I think, yeah. So I thought, I think I probably started skidding, because I just realized we're not making it through this light. I have to stop my bike, and I have to stop it right now. and I'm watching the ride go away from me. And I know like this is it. Blake and I are now two guys out on a bike ride. Instead of doing this really fun ride, we woke up at probably 5:30 in the morning to get out and do. And what happened on your end, Blake?
I mean, what happened? I'm like, as you're saying this, I'm like, the back of my knees hurt, my stomach hurts just thinking about what happened. So I mean, I'm in the drops, probably standing, like going that hard, and I look up and I see a very still Andrew, where there was once a very fast moving Andrew, and he's very close to me, and like right at the edge of the intersection, and I drill into him. Like I think before I even hit my brakes, like I don't even think I touched my brakes, and then the next thing I remember is like us, like just like sprawled out in the middle of this massive intersection with like people getting out of their cars, being like, "Oh my god, are you okay?" And I hit Andrew so hard that you might have ripped a cleat off of your shoe and it was stuck in your pedal.
Oh, it was so funny. It was so funny. Yeah, I felt it was like a if you were just standing there and Blake, I don't know what you weigh right now. At that time, I'm guessing you probably weighed like 175 pounds and had like 5% body fat. You were very jacked. You were very stout. And it was like someone with that physique running 30 miles per hour in football, tackling you while you were just standing there facing forward with no awareness of what was about to happen.
You were doing a track stand.
It was so funny. It was so funny.
Oh,
yeah. So yeah, like you just railroaded into me, plowed me, hit me so hard that it threw me off my bike into the intersection. And I don't remember exactly how you fell, but I think you probably like vaulted over me, and you were 5 or 10 feet in front of me in the middle of the intersection. And you're right. It was like people were like, "Is this guy dead?" It was a bad scene.
Yeah. There were multiple people getting out of cars. Just being
and that's not.
Oh my god.
Yeah, and that's not like a real SoCal thing. Usually it's like, oh, like the dead body, I'm going to step over it and keep moving, or like that's a speed bump now. But this was so bad that people got out of their cars in Azusa or wherever we were and were checking on us. And then, I mean, the next thing we had to do was immediately get out of the road because that cars probably go like 50 miles an hour on that road. We got off to the side of the road, and then, yeah, I remember doing an assessment because when you have a wreck on the bike, you typically don't know how bad it is. I don't know about you, Blake. The thing I hate the most about wrecking really bad on my bike, or the moment that I find to be most intense, is the moment between it happening and when I look down to see how fucked up I am.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, yeah.
So it's like you feel it and you're like, okay, but like everything kind of hurts and you're so numb in certain places from the impact and the shock of it. And then you actually have to look down and see, okay, what's broken or not? What's wrong with me? Do I need stitches? All that stuff. And in this instance, for me, I was relatively okay. I think, I don't know, maybe I had torn shorts or something. I remember, I feel like did you have your fluid jersey on?
Yeah, I was a bloody mess. I had what was left of my fluid jersey on. I had probably torn through. No, I didn't tear through my hips. I got because I remember I had those bib shorts for a while. So yeah, I tore a hole in my fluid jersey. Most of I think my left side, which is where I usually fall, was just like hamburger meat. But we got there on the side of the road, and I will say we had the conversation of, well, do you think we can catch him?
Oh yeah, totally. Right. Yeah. Do you think we could catch the ride? Yeah, absolutely.
We had a full, I mean, not even like, do you think we should do it? And at some point we both said uncle and went back and rode to Silver Lake and got coffee. and sat
Yeah,
on.
we went to Intelligentsia. I think that
Mhm.
celebrity Bible study that Justin Bieber does, I think that was going on in the coffee shop while we were there.
And then I sat out there. We got coffee, and then I sat out there bleeding on the patio. And then what's messed up is that 2 or 3 days later, I moved to Berkeley. That was the last Montrose we had before I
Oh,
moved to
wow.
Berkeley. Yeah.
Okay, so we've gone out of chronological order here, and I'm aware. I know you've got a slide, so let's definitely get to like the hundreds workout because this is the 100th episode. And Blake, you started to tell this story at some point in the trajectory of our going out. Like we did so many just horrible interval workouts, and there were many more later. We ended up having, it was a lot of fun. We ended up working together at TRX, which was great, and we did a lot of really just horrible interval workouts and other workouts that we could talk about at a future date. But in LA, kind of like the apex of all this stuff we were doing, at some point we decided, as you mentioned, you hadn't done a century. We were doing the Montrose ride every Saturday anyway. It's like, whatever, we can throw another 30 miles on this. It's not that hard. You like go do a lap around Griffith Park, head out to Elysian Park. Now I feel like this is the SNL Californian skit. But you pop down Sunset, you hang a left into Elysian Park, and you've done 100 miles. And we were talking earlier about a park in Silver Lake where we do these body weight workouts. Well, we'd go do bike workouts in Griffith Park. We do these group rides, and then we also would do these sprint workouts and hill climb workouts in Elysian Park. And that's when we noticed that Elysian Park had another body weight area for workouts, and it had monkey bars somewhere you could do pull-ups, just like all the stuff that we loved. So the challenge became 100-mile workout, and then afterwards, I don't remember which CrossFit workout this is.
Angie.
It's Angie. Okay, so we're going to do the 100-mile ride, then we're going to do an Angie, and Angie is 100 pull-ups, push-ups, squats, and what? Sit-ups? Yeah. It's like, hey, what's the perfect thing to do after you ride your bike 100 miles with a really hard group ride in the middle? You're going to do the CrossFit Angie WOD.
I have to correct you on one thing. That at the time, you were very into single speed training. And this was your first century on a single speed.
Did I really do that on a single speed? Wow.
Yeah.
I did the Montrose ride on a single speed as well then.
Yeah, you did it multiple times. Yeah.
Okay,
and this
great.
isn't when things were like it wasn't easy to get a single, like, state bikes didn't have like a stock single speed. This was like right before Specialized put out the Langster, because people were kind of getting into like fixed gear riding. So you had to convert a geared bike into a single speed bike, like put a chain tensioner on it, get the whole thing figured out. And you were like, cool, I'm going to take this on the most competitive ride, one of the most competitive rides in LA. And then we're going to do another 30 miles afterwards. And the other thing is, the 30 miles that we did afterwards, we decided to do in the afternoon. Like we had a second bike ride.
Hold on. We stopped between rides. Where maybe we changed clothes for some reason.
I don't know. I don't know.
It's like a costume change going to the opera.
Because it was almost afternoon, because we had a whole new headwind that we didn't have in the morning.
Okay.
And I was like, I don't know if this is going to happen. Like it was legitimately challenging. Like in my head, when we got home from the first 70, I was like, I got this in the bag. And I was like, I got this in the bag. And then we started riding again, and I was like, oh my God, this is a whole different beast riding in this headwind to get the last bit done. It really felt like pulling teeth. And then, we're like, cool, let's go do these pull-ups.
Yeah. Okay, cool. So we made a horrible thing, extra horrible. And as you may have figured out, there are parts of this I don't even remember doing. So,
I can't believe you don't remember the single speed aspect.
I don't know. This podcast is not about 10 tips you can do to blah, blah, blah. And it's not about shortcuts or hacks. It's about how doing hard things builds stronger humans who have more fun. And I think this is a perfect example. If you do enough hard things, you're just going to forget about some of them. So even in the moment, if it seems particularly awful, probably will fade over time.
I will just say that like this competitive friendship has led to some of our biggest successes as athletes, that we have, right? Like there's
Yeah.
no way without this relationship I ever would have gone to do Unbound, right?
No, you were never going to go to Kansas to do anything.
Right.
I don't think. Yeah.
Other than play a hardcore show like 20 years ago.
Yeah.
But like,
totally.
you know what I mean? Like that was something that I'd never do. And now I can say, oh yeah, I finished third place in the Unbound 100 2 years in a row. Like,
Yeah.
and that never would have happened had you not finished second.
Well, yeah, there you go.
And additionally, like, think about this. We have both snatched a 53-pound kettlebell 100 times in under 5 minutes.
I don't know if I've done that, Blake. I don't know if I ever met the standard. I don't remember.
Well,
I don't remember.
Again, either way,
probably pretty close to that before I injured my shoulder so bad that I can't ever do that again. But right. Yeah,
but you got probably closer to doing that than, I don't know, 99.9% of humans on Earth. Right. And that's something
it's maybe true
that wouldn't have happened had we not had this relationship. And at times it's been like antagonistic. At times it's been just goofy. And I think that, yeah, like having someone that you can do this stuff with, is it makes you so much better, and you don't realize it until, we've been friends for 15 years, 16 years, until you look back and you're like, wow, like we have done a lot of stuff together.
Yeah, we definitely have. And I wanted to go back to something that you mentioned earlier, which I think I have reflected on, but it would be worth talking about, which is it can be awkward as an adult to make new friends. I think that that's kind of axiomatic. Maybe that's really easy for some people, but I think the older you get, and if you have a family, or if you're really caught up in your profession, whatever the case may be, it can be really difficult to make meaningful relationships with people. Like just generally, I mean, there is a loneliness epidemic. It's well documented. It's really bad for your health. And something that led to everything that we're talking about is like we took the chance of making some time to go do something with a stranger that was potentially really awkward. I mean, I can only imagine what it must have felt like, Blake, when I walked up wearing plastics, like sweating my ass off, carrying an 80-pound sandbag on my back. And I was like, cool, let's work out. But, if you don't take that chance, then none of the rest of the stuff is going to happen. No risk, no champagne. And I'm grateful that we have this friendship, that we did take the chance, and for all of the fun, sometimes horrible, sometimes inadvisable, but always worth it things that we've done. And if you're listening to this, I want to say again, we're at episode 100. Thanks so much for listening to Choose the Hard Way. Go out, do something hard, take the chance, ask somebody else to do it with you, whether there's someone that you've done something like this before or somebody new. Like you never know what possibilities are going to unfold if you roll the dice, take the chance, and commit yourself to doing something that is going to be challenging.